Hi guys, this is Tara at Daya Enlightened. Welcome to today's episode of Inlight. I'm very, very excited to be speaking with the lovely Miss Eesha Patel, and she is a international channeler. Very cool. And she also is a multi-dimensional frequency technique healer. Did I get that right?
You did.
Oh,
yes.
Fantastic. So it's very exciting. We've got people jumping on now. Hi, Dom.
Hey, Dom. I know Dom.
you will get to know everybody that's watching by the end of it.
Cool.
So we're gonna we're just gonna have a beautiful chat to Eesha about her story, and we're gonna jump into something very interesting, which I am super psyched to hear about. Is this multi-dimensional healing? So I would love you to just talk about your story, darling. And who is Eesha?
Who is Eesha? Geez, what a big question. Okay, so yeah, my name's Eesha. I've been, I guess, on the spiritual journey actively for probably about 6 to 7 years. But of course, the journey starts well before we're born.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, about 3.5 years ago, I had quite a big awakening and went through an experience where I basically started spontaneously channeling overnight.
Yep.
There was a process leading up to it. I mean, we'll get into that in this podcast a bit later on. But yeah, I basically woke up one day, started channeling and received a bunch of sacred geometry codes.
Oh, wow.
And just pictures started coming to me. And within 5 weeks, I ran my first event at the place that is now Sydney Space, which you've been to.
Yeah, I love that.
So that was actually how the centre started.
Wow, what a beautiful history.
Yeah. So it was one event that then led to another, and 3.5 years down the track, we're now got a very thriving space where I coach a lot of people through just through their spiritual awakening processes, and I run a number of different meditation groups and healing circles and things like that. So it's been quite a journey. And for me, it's just an honour every day, you know, to be able to come into the space and know that I'm helping people every day to reawaken to who they are and to actually remember who they are.
Exactly. Remembering, that's what it's
Exactly.
about, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
and
totally.
how beautiful, what a journey that. What I love about your work, and I've been watching you for a long time. I said before that I was stalking her website just to really immerse myself in all that is Eesha. But, you know, I love your journey because you have so many multi-dimensional facets. I'm going to throw that word in. But, you know, you really do have a lot that you do, and you are a fascinating, deeply deep soul, which is why I wanted you to come on today.
Yeah, thank you.
So, okay, so that's where it started, is the city space. And then can you tell us a little bit about your journey into other aspects? Anything else you want to go into with that or energy healing as well?
Well, the energy healing side of things, it's funny, I started doing my first sessions on people before I'd done any formal training. So I still remember one of my earliest sessions I had. It was just after I'd run the very first sacred geometry ceremony. And just had someone come in, and she just wanted to, I think she was actually there for an activation. So I had my little geometry cards, which were the cards I channeled just a few weeks before, and did this whole process for her. And I realized in the actual healing session, I realized that I literally was able to pick up this person's soul and just completely clear away like any blockages that she had, anything that was holding her back. To the point where she walked away from that session an hour later like a whole new person. Yeah. She actually messaged me like 2.5 years later thanking me for that one experience that completely changed her life, because it was so deep, so powerful, so profound. And the thing is, I'd never learnt from someone how to do that. You know, I never learned like a skill. It wasn't like a modality or something.
You didn't go to a course or anything?
No, it wasn't a course. It was just like total trust in that, you know, knowing that I was able to do this thing and I was able to facilitate that, and trusting that I just had to show up and do it. You know, so for me, a lot of the journey has been about that trust in just knowing that if I'm getting this information, if I'm getting these, you know, guidances, to actually follow that. Because your inner guidance is always talking to you. And I know you were interested in some of the intuitive stuff. And this is where I feel like I've been probably my own prime model because I now teach people how to get into their intuitive side. But for me, it started off with me trusting me.
Yes, and I think that's important to note too, is that there's nothing wrong with courses. We're not saying don't do courses, but
I run many of them myself.
But I think what you're talking about there, and I'll just pull out what you've said there, around energetic blueprint, your essence. You know, so you have an essence that is Eesha, I have an essence that is Tara, and we all have unique blueprints that is our own destiny. It's something that I coined, like our destiny blueprint. It's something that it's probably been said before that, but I'm just going to coin it right now. And that's what it is. It's that we have an essence that, as you said, from your intuition, you learnt that, absorbed that, immersed yourself in that. And then from there, as you're doing it through practice, you see the magic happens with people. And then from there, that's where the courses develop, because you start to see patterns and where there might be structures and strategies that you can implement and put into place.
That's it. And I think one of the biggest, I guess, assets that I had was I had my awakening without all of those courses, because a lot of people can get really into their head with this stuff.
Definitely.
So for me to go in with a completely blank slate and just start doing it was actually, it really worked out in my favor. It's not always a pathway that's going to work for people, because I've also come across people who've gone in like well and truly out of their depths with this kind of stuff, and I've seen it go the other way as well.
True.
But for me, I guess, you know, I really was quite well guided in that sense of just understanding that I had the knowledge, I had the wisdom within me, and I knew what it is that needed to happen to just go out and shine that light into the world. So I did it, no questions asked. You know, I just did it.
And I think that's what I love about your energy. You come from that pure intention and genuine. You know, that's what I noticed about you when we went to I went to visit you at the City Space, and I think it was a meditation.
Must have been one of the Friday night meditations.
I think it was a Friday night meditation, and I noticed that straight away. Because as what I do is I read energy for a job, and you know, I noticed your heart straight away. I was like, oh, she's got a good heart. I like her. So you know, that comes across, I think, when you're working with people, very much so, and that's one of the great things about your work. So I'm just going to take a sip of tea. So, tell everyone here and myself about something I was mentioning to you before we started recording, was the energy healing on land. So can you tell us some of your most exceptional memories, or anything that really sticks out for you in that type, and what started that, I guess?
Absolutely. I actually love talking about this because I don't get to talk about it very often.
We'll talk away. We've got a platform.
Okay, so I'm gonna pre-frame the audience a little bit, because I'm gonna assume that most people watching don't know what this is. So what I do is my main line of work is working with the earth. So I work with people, but I work with the earth more than I work with people. And so a lot of my life involves traveling to lots of different places and connecting with the ley lines and the vortexes and the different energy points of the land.
Beautiful.
Now on the land, there's what's known as chakra points. So just like we have chakras in our body, the earth has chakras like all around her. And there are 7 main chakras, which are places like Mount Shasta, Uluru. There's a few like Lake Titicaca. There's a few main points, but there's also like minor energy points as well. So there's actually quite a few in Perth.
Oh yeah,
heaps in Perth. I've heard that. Yeah, especially up in the hills around Darlington, Glen Forest.
I was just there last night actually, and I was soaking up the energy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So a little bit about ley lines. Ley lines are like, you know how the body has veins running through us? The ley lines are like the veins of the earth.
Oh, wow.
So they carry all this energy around and under the earth and through the earth, and it's like this invisible life force energy that just goes throughout the earth. And there are points where you might get like 2 or more ley lines crossing, and you call that a node point. Okay. So wherever there's like either a really, you know, big intersection, or even just like where 2 points cross over and the energy comes together, that's called a node.
Right. Okay.
So I work with a lot of those points where I go through and I utilize the energy of those intersections, and then use that to anchor energy into the earth.
Is it more intense, the energy at the node points?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
you can feel it. Like for me, if I'm walking around, I can generally tell where node points are, because you walk around and you go, oh, there's like a high energy spot here.
Exactly.
So now within those node points, you can have certain energetic vortexes and stuff happening in that space as well. So my role is to go to those points and use those points to actually anchor energy into the earth. This is all part of this like massive movement of planetary ascension, which I assume you have talked to your audience about.
Absolutely. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So in short, planetary ascension is the process of us moving from the 3rd into the 5th dimension. And the entire planet is raising up in its frequency, right? So there's lots of different things that come into play when we're going through this process. Part of it is us. So like as humans, we are ascending in our frequency, but also supporting that simultaneously is the earth lifting in frequency to also support that. So a lot of my work is with the earth side of things.
because so I understand that the reason for that is because you would be wanting to support Mother Earth in that ascension process, because we are directly connected to the Earth.
Exactly.
So you're wanting to go from the ground up, basically.
Exactly.
Eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. And I love that you said about, so energetic vortexes, can you tease that out a bit for all of us?
Yep, sure. So it is literally a vortex of energy. Like, I see it as this spinning vortex of energy. I'll actually tell you the story of when I went to Sedona.
Great.
So Sedona has one of the biggest vortexes on Earth.
Oh, wow.
It's a real major energy point.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where, like, it's a tourism thing now. Like, you can go there and people talk about the Bell Rock vortex, and there's 4 major vortexes, and it's quite well known. You go to anyone in Sedona, they know what you're talking about. So I was guided to go there for the 7-7 Gateway in 2017. So that was the 7th of July. I didn't realize this at the time. I actually realized this months later. I had a good laugh about it. But the time zone there is GMT -7.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Sometimes these things, like, I look back retrospectively, I'm like, oh, right, now I understand.
Numbers love to play tricks on us. Numbers just go, look what we did there.
Because I didn't even get that. I just got Sedona. It was like, go to Sedona for the 7-7 Gateway. And I was like, why Sedona?
Right. Oh, so you got that information?
Months before.
Wow.
So at the end of 2016, in like November, this happens to me every year. At the end of every year, I get my trajectory for the next year. So this year, I'm actually going to the UK.
Wow.
To do the same thing in Glastonbury. But so at the end of 2016, I was just sitting in meditation and I got this memo: you're going to Sedona on the 7-7 Gateway. My guides are quite nice. They give me 7 to 8 months notice so I can plan my flights and stuff. They're organised, they're organised. They do understand that we do this Earth thing and we have this time thing and we have to book flights and stuff.
So true.
So they're always very accommodating for that.
Don't go to Antarctica tomorrow. You have to.
I have had some fairly last minute ones as well, but this one was quite planned.
That's great.
So yeah, I booked all my tickets and everything like months in advance, got to Sedona and had this whole journey of like discovering, you know, these vortex points. Wow. The funny thing was though, I didn't do any research before I got there because I just felt not to. I felt just get there and you'll know where to go.
You'll know.
And so I'm driving into this border of Sedona and I go to this hotel and I've seen in my visions at that point that there's just like this big red rock and there's like a bit of a clearing. And so I walked into the first crystal shop that I could find and I just said, look, you know, this might sound a little bit strange, but I just had this vision and I saw this place and she points to this painting on the wall and goes, is that it? And I was like, yes, where is that? And she's like, well, it's 5 minutes down the road.
Oh, so you're already heading in the right direction. You're like a human GPS.
Well, that's it. And she said it's called the Bell Rock Vortex. And I was at that time I didn't know what it was. And then I found out that the accommodation I had booked was actually called the Bell Rock Motel, and it was like as close as possible to that vortex as you can possibly get.
Well, you have an organised spirit, guys, so they're not going to play shit like an hour away.
So the hotel, the place that I was staying, was actually in the vortex energy, where I was living.
What was that like, sleeping in a vortex?
I didn't sleep, for one.
I don't think I would sleep either.
I didn't sleep very much at all. I did have quite an intense time. And that at that point, that 7-7 mission was one of the most intense I'd done today. I have since then had more intense ones. Which I'll talk about a bit as well. But that one was, at that time, the most intense I'd had. And in order to facilitate that amount of energy work, I really had to just do a lot on my own body leading up to it. So I fasted for 21 days leading up to it. And on the day of that event, I pretty much didn't eat, didn't sleep. Like, I was just in my full light body, just bringing in so much high vibrational energy. Wow. And so the morning of the 7-7 Gateway, I went out into just towards the rock and I found this like massive clearing, just like it was in my dreams, just like I'd seen it, it was there. And there I set up this massive medicine wheel and just felt to, set all the energy up. I put like a crystal there and just set it all up. And then I went back at 7 p.m. that night, so 7 p.m. on the 7-7, and just finish off the activation. And ended up like wandering around there for like at least an hour, just doing all this energy work and seeing, what was going on. The funny thing is though, the second time I went back, I couldn't find the medicine wheel. Like, it was right there.
Really?
Like, I felt like I was just in this either really poor sense of direction or I was in a time warp because
I believe that. I would believe
because I just couldn't find it. Like, I went walking around, I'm like, it's not a big place. It's really not.
Yeah, no, can't believe that.
So couldn't find the clearing, couldn't find what I'd done that morning, but just wandered around and was like, well, cool, I'm here now.
The earth went, thank you.
Yeah,
swallowed it up, thank you.
Fully. And then, so probably about 20 minutes of meditation later, because I just sat down, like after walking around, and I just went into meditation, connected with my guides, brought all this energy through.
Yes. Yeah.
Soon as I finished, all the clouds around me turned into this massive vortex. Like the entire environment had changed around me. And then I just heard, that's it, you're done.
You're done. Yeah.
That's it, finished.
And that's how you know. Yep.
Yep. And then I had just enough time, because they were like, you need to leave now. And I actually walked there. I didn't have a car. So I walked from my hotel to there, and they said, leave now, go straight away. And soon, like the second I got into my hotel room, it started bucketing down with rain.
Oh, there you go.
And it was like sunny for days leading up to that point. Because this is like the middle of the desert, you know.
And that was like an emotional purge, really, that you activated something in Mother Earth. And
well, it's about integration, because rain, the energy of water and the rain, when it comes down like that, is really, it's the tangible way of bringing that star high vibrational energy into the earth.
That's a great way of actually describing it, what you just said. That's so beautiful, because I'm so into the elements and nature and what you said, and especially the star realm, because I think when we first spoke, I don't know, from memory I was like, you're from the star realm too, or something. I know we had some star conversation from memory.
Probably. It sounds about right.
It sounds about right. But that's beautiful. So it's that, you know, not only that emotional cleansing and purging that you started to activate, but it's that also that gateway that you activated to the realms above. And now when you say the realms, do you work with like Pleiadian energy or star realm energy? Or,
I can work with any and every.
Yeah, cool. So you got a whole list stuff there. So I guess appropriate to whatever's in the situation at the time. And and so it's okay. So can you take us through then? All right. So you mentioned on your website the Nikola Tesla quote about, if you want to understand the nature of the universe, frequency, energy, vibration.
Yeah.
And so those are those three things, obviously, because you listed that on your website. That's obviously something you use. Can you take us through that process with each of those? Because I think that's important when people, because some people may not know about how you work with the land and why and what skills, I guess I'll call it skills, gifts that you use. So I'll take it over to you.
Cool. So that quote by Nikola Tesla, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency and vibration, is one of my favorite quotes, because it just sums up how the world works.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I see the world in energy. Like I see energies, I feel energies quite strongly. Absolutely. So for me, it's a very tangible experience of life.
Hugely.
Okay, so this is where things get very interesting, and where I will explain the whole multidimensional.
As you want.
So this is how our multidimensional world works. Okay, so this is like the juice of explaining how the entire reality functions. So we live in the third dimension, right? The third dimension is typically considered all things physical. It's tangible. It's like our physical bodies. Like I can touch it. I can touch you. So that's the 3D, right? We are primarily living in the 3D, but we're in 3D bodies, but we are multidimensional beings. And this is where it gets very interesting, because our spirit is multidimensional. Our soul is multidimensional. And what we're doing through Planetary Ascension is we're learning how to experience and to fully bring that multidimensional awareness into the physical body and express it through the physical form.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is why all this work is happening at the moment with all these light workers and star seeds and all that stuff, because we're lifting the whole frequency of ourselves, humanity and planet Earth, so that we can experience higher vibrational living through physicality.
And the nature of how, through high vibrational living, can actually ascend the capabilities of our physical body as well. I think that's something as well that's what we're discovering too.
Exactly.
You know, with all those documentaries like Heal and Emotion and all those ones where we can heal ourselves. We do have that power. But it is about awareness. Like I always say, it's not that there's no hope in life. It's just that if you don't have awareness, it creates the illusion of like no hope. But it's not that, you know. So keep going. Yeah.
So that's the third dimension. From there, we move into the fourth dimension, which incorporates the time spiral. So in the 4D, you've actually got I literally see it as like this spinning vortex of time. It's actually like a spiral type of energy. Now, for anyone who's done any sort of psychic work, this is what actually happens, right? we're here in the 3D. To be a medium, you step your consciousness up into the fourth dimension, and then you view down into the third. Now, the way that our body and also just law of physics works is you view one dimensional lower than what you're actually in. So, for example, if I look at a tree, I don't see the whole tree in 3D. I know it's in 3D because I've walked around enough trees that I know that, and my mind fills in the blanks. But the actual physical site, we actually see in 2D. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes absolute perfect sense.
So we view in 2D. Yeah. So in order to do anything like remote viewing or any sort of psychic work, timelines, that sort of thing, you actually step your consciousness up into 4D and you view into the third dimension.
Makes sense.
Makes sense?
Absolutely makes sense.
Then from there, you actually step up to the fifth dimension. And this is where we're heading with this planetary ascension. We're heading into 5D where time does not exist.
Yeah.
So you get rid of all the time spirals, you get rid of all the, you know, the emotions, like all of that sort of stuff. All you have is this beautiful unified consciousness, but still in tangible form. I'm not going to use the word physical because it's not physical in 5D, but it's tangible in that there's still a sense of form to it.
Yes.
So you have a light body that has a sense of form. So when I connect with a fifth dimensional being, I see things like facial features and like a body and, you know, all of that. Yeah. When you're going up into like 12, 13 dimension, there's nothing.
That's completely different.
So generally, I don't see much form. Really, when you're in the 13th dimension, there isn't form. It's just like, it's like the 0 point. But all the other spaces have some sort of form in how they represent or how they at least present to us. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Now, when you go above the fifth dimension, it's more like, I mean, they're all different feelings, but I recognize them through different feelings. So, for example, the sixth dimension is... it's actually, it all represents through geometry, and this is why I use a lot of sacred geometry. So the sixth dimension is actually represented by the 6 hexagon.
Yes.
And it's the frequency of harmony. Because if you think about like the 6 in total balance with each other, it's all in perfect harmony.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's actually the 3 trinities coming together.
Absolutely. Masculine, feminine, the ether, the earth. Beautiful.
Yes, except we don't use duality
of course,
in that form.
But I'm just saying that for the purposes of, I guess, some concept for people. Yeah. But I know exactly.
It's a bit hard to describe when,
I know.
when we're in duality.
The words that came to mind. I'm just going to speak in duality for a second here. Just
totally.
so we can connect it back. But absolutely, I totally agree with what you're saying. Keep going.
Okay. Then you've got the 7th dimension, which is a frequency of grace, ease. It's also a frequency of one of the starships that I connect with. So I'm quite in tune with the 7th dimension. Then it just keeps going. Then you've got 8, 9, 10. So 9 is usually where I see a lot of the angelic beings. There's a lot of like angelic, your lion beings from Lyra. A lot of them sit in the 7th dimension as well. Then you've got your 8th, your 9th. A lot of the lion beings are probably like 7th, somewhere in the 7th, somewhere in the 9th. Ascended masters, a lot of them in the 9th dimension. So like Sananda, you know, that sort of thing.
Absolutely, exactly.
Then you've got the 11th dimension, which, see, as you go higher up, it's like, instead of seeing it, I feel it and I hear it and I get like a color frequency.
Yeah, exactly. And look, what you said is important too, is that when we think about the color spectrum, if we're on the 3-dimensional plane, and as you said, we're multidimensional beings and we can ascend up whenever we like through the physical, but then there's all these, I remember looking at this color spectrum, and then it's like the sound vibration spectrum. We, as 3D beings, when we're just connected and grounded on Earth, we can only see in certain amounts of colors. So when you're talking about all these dimensions, I think what's really great about what you're saying is that it doesn't have to necessarily make sense when you're in that mode, if that makes sense. Like, when you're in it and you're in that high vibrational frequency, what can happen, what I've noticed about when I do this too, is that sometimes the egoic mind can step in if you're not fully integrated, and you can try to make sense of it. And sometimes it is like, who said it? Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist, he said, the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you.
I like that.
And I thought that was so good, because we do try to rationalize things. We try to go, okay, and even those numbers of those ascension, you know, I mean, that all of that is language that we have to put on it as well, isn't it? To make it communicable to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So keep going. Yeah, I just wanted to add that in. But keep going.
So each dimensional frequency to me is like it's like tuning into a different radio station. So you've got all these different frequencies, and you're not actually limited to just one or the other. So when you asked me earlier, you know, who do I connect with? I connect with all of them. I connect with Pleiadians, I connect with Sirians, Arcturians. I've got star family in every star system. There are ones that people haven't even heard about that I connect with. Like I just channel, you know, all sorts of stuff. And it just depends as well on, like, at a cosmic level, what energies are coming in and how that's presenting on Earth as well.
Exactly.
Because everything is in this, like, fractal of each other, right? So the macrocosm and the microcosm are completely related. So what's happening out there on that cosmic level is also happening right here, right now, like in this room.
Absolutely, And I love that visual because I came up with something the other day. It's like, what if the whole entire solar system, this is just the way that my brain was, what if the whole entire solar system was literally just a tiny little cell in somebody, in a higher being's body?
Yeah, that's pretty much
the
it.
Microcosm of that, and I'm like, that is cool. My head's totally tripping right now, but that's cool. Yeah. So keep. I'll let you take the reins. Keep going, darling. With any
I had this beautiful experience a while ago where I actually saw how the world was created, and it was this beautiful, like, energetic experience. So I saw, it's so hard to describe something that's a concept that's so big, but it was given to me in a visual form that I could make some sort of sense of it. So I saw this, like, golden thread of light that was just, like, waiting to do something, and then I saw this other golden thread of light that was just, like, hanging out waiting to do something. And then underneath all of that was this sound vibration. I think this is where people get the or the, you know, like the universal sound. The sound vibration was actually carrying these light frequencies. So it was like I was actually seeing, like, this sound wave, and then there's lights on top of it, like hitching a ride. That's how it was shown to me. And then
that's cool.
These two beings of light, I'm going to call them beings of light because they're so alive to me, these beings of light connected and co-created. And then I realized, like, it was this profound moment of realization that when these two, like, energies come together and co-create something, that is how, like, the fundamental, you know, creation happens. So this light comes together, and what determines, you know, what it becomes is actually the geometric combination. So for example, if it's like at this angle, it creates hydrogen, and then if it's at that angle, it creates something else, right? So it was like the combination of the light, the sound, the actual geometric, like, vector components and how they all come together that create that exact
uniqueness.
That exact creation. And then you take that creation and another creation and put those together, and then you have the alchemy of the universe. And that is literally how everything is created. From a scientific point of view, it's like everything in this universe is technically made from hydrogen, right? Which is like the smallest particle. And then inside the hydrogen, you've got electrons, neutrons, all of that sort of stuff. So when you take those tiny particles and you put them together and you make something else and you create something that, for example, hydrogen or helium or something like that, then those become the building blocks of everything that we see in physical form. So I literally saw how that first creation happened.
On a molecular level, on a light, sound, time-space curvature. Because when you said that, it just reminded me of the visual concept in Einstein's theory of relativity about the space-time curvature. You know, matter, it, like, time and space, I think it curves around matter. It's so, like, as in, like, for example, you and I have bodies, and everything is curving around us because we are matter. But we're at a vibration, and that's like what you're saying, that light and sound gets condensed to a level, and the particles of it gets to this fusion level where it becomes what you're saying is matter and those molecular structures. So I think that is and you know, it's interesting that, because I know that I've had visions myself around that grid. Also, it does feel like it when you're saying that. I have an image of these light things, but a grid. It's a grid-like structure. And that's interesting to me, because we think of grids as very mathematical, but I think the universe is mathematical. Sacred geometry is mathematical. All of the number sequences are perfect in there. And what you're saying also is cool about, and I've got a ring on to show this, infinity. So I love this ring. The infinite. So with just tying it back to your multi-dimensional frequency technique, is that in there? Is that about the infinite? Is that, because you're saying multi-dimensional? So obviously, then I'm assuming with the epic amount of combinations that from your vision, what can be created. It's that this infinite energy that's how I see it. I don't know how you see it, but that's why I'm asking you, but that's how I see it, is infinity. I see things as infinite in their possibilities, in their potential, in their creativity. How do you see it in relation to the multi-dimensional frequency technique? Can you explore that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So MFT is based on the idea that everything at some point is connected to and comes from source.
Yes.
So I had this, this vision of how the world was created, and I went, okay, well, that's in everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything that is like a what would you say, like a version of that, or like a creation of that, at some point was in that original form. It was like in that original light, that original sound. That's every particle in our body, everything that we touch, everything that we see, everything that we feel, everything that we breathe came from that source.
Absolutely.
So then I look at, for example, a person's body and they might be carrying, some sort of emotional trauma that's then become into like a physical ailment, and it's become something like a tumor or whatever the disease is. And I look at that and I go, okay, that's cool, but at some point that energy is also source.
Absolutely.
So MFT is based on that principle that everything can be taken back to source.
Yes.
Immediately, within, like, instantly, beyond time and space, if it's ready to do so. So I treat all energies as living beings.
Yeah.
And then the frequency part of it, so that's the multidimensional part of it, knowing that we are multidimensional beings and everything can be taken cross dimensions.
Yes.
The frequency part of it is where people actually learn how to get into the 0 point, because in order to cross dimensions, you have to it's like if you're going from the 4th to the 5th dimension, you have to go through this funnel point, right? You have to go through the 0 point and then you come out the other end in the other dimension. And then again, if you want to get to the next one. So the 0 point is like a spiral that goes through dimensions. So this is like all the different dimensional layers, all the frequencies. This is the spiral that connects all of them. Yeah. So the frequency part of the MFT is that 0 point frequency. And the technique is how to get people into that space. So that's just a series of meditation tools.
Yeah, meditation tools. Okay. And all right. So do you feel comfortable doing a little bit of a example showing? Is that something we can do in a short space of time? Yeah. So I'll be
absolutely.
guinea pig. Okay, so I've come to you with, I'll try and relate it to my own life. Okay, let's talk about, maybe just for a second, I'll go personal, trauma. So how does one shift through trauma?
Okay,
if it's in the body and it's affecting, for example, manifestations for me come in panic attacks, body freezes, because that's been my initial response to whenever I get triggered. If that makes sense. So I'll just throw that to you.
So there's a twofold approach here that goes on. Whenever I do MFT, one part is always that the client is taking responsibility for their healing.
Of course.
So you will be guided into a process where you actually shift some of this stuff yourself.
Absolutely.
The other part of it is I bring in a number of my guides and your guides and star family, and so I bring in all these high vibrational beings to come in and help shift this frequency, not just through the physical but across dimensions, because you can't just shift it on one level and expect it to be a permanent shift.
It won't be.
It has to actually shift across every dimension at the same time in order for that thing to never come back.
And past lives too?
Everything.
Yes, because
past lives are not really past, they're simultaneous.
Exactly.
And they just exist in another dimensional space.
But we just say past because we're still in this time thing.
So
exactly.
so MFT goes beyond time and space.
Yeah, cool.
So assuming that time is not real, which it's not, you go into past lives, other star lives, other dimensional lives, all possible dimensional realities of your soul, and you clear this pattern across all of them at once.
Everything, exactly. Exactly.
So what I get the client to do, and we can do this test on you.
Let's do it.
Is you're going to find where it is in your body.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, so it is gonna get quite personal.
It's fine.
You cool? Because I'm happy to do it. Okay.
I'm an open book. I can already feel where the tension is straight away.
Okay, so just sit up straight for me. Take a deep breath. Okay, so you mentioned you had some trauma.
Yeah.
Okay, so where is it in your body?
My throat.
Okay. Can you breathe into it?
Yep.
Okay. Now treat that part inside you like it's an actual living being. Now, if that's like a little child sitting inside you, that energy, what does it have to say to you?
You're safe.
Okay, do you believe it?
Not quite.
Okay, can you listen to it again? Okay, so what is it saying to you?
It's okay.
Do you believe it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So can you see or feel how that's starting to shift already?
Yeah.
Okay. So at a physical level, that's how simple it is. There's other stuff going on as well. I'm calling on all sorts of beings to
I
assist.
can feel it. I'm like, oh man, I'm in something right now. I'm in some vortex. Which dimension am I at?
All of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hold your awareness into that space. Keep breathing into it. Keep breathing into it. So I can feel like the upper end of here, it's starting to, like it's moving around a bit.
Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah.
Because what happens is as you're bringing your awareness to it, it wants to, one part of it wants to shift and the other part of it's really scared. Yeah?
Because there's attention placed on it.
Yeah.
And normally it's suppressed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And am I allowed to say?
Yeah.
I you know, the inner child thing is interesting about that because it's in the voice. Because what it's making me realize, if I can put words to it, is that the limitations that I've placed and others have placed on my voice, and because I have a gift of the voice in singing, music, and speaking, and sometimes that can make you feel like you're on the outer, and I think. When you get I'm going to use the word punished. I know it's a harsh word, but when you feel punished for using your voice and speaking up, and I think this is transcendent from past lives. You know, in past lives, there's death and burnt at the stake and all the rest. I'm being taken to it's interesting you said about UK because I'm being taken to a past life in UK right now, but for me, it's that knowing that's linking back to I'm safe. To speak as well. I'm going to open my eyes now. So that was interesting what came up for me. And you know, you said about the macrocosm, totally felt like I left my body, totally felt like I was in this complete void space of just space. That's what I felt when you were, whatever you were channeling through to me.
We're not done yet, so I'm going to finish.
Oh, right.
We've only just started.
So well.
Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do is just close your eyes for a few minutes and just go into total silence. Bring all of your awareness into that space. And every time you feel something shifting in there, just keep bringing white light into it.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and see what's going on in there. How's that feeling?
Wow, you spoke at the exact point when I was shifting then. Oh, yeah. I see a lot of purple.
Yep.
A lot of light that feels like it's trying to escape is the only visual I can put on it.
Yep.
But bouncing back.
Yeah, because you've been holding on to this for such a long time.
Which is interesting. And I think that's a learned thing. I want to say a learned behaviour is the words I'm being shown. So that's interesting. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now, so I'm just going to
stay
be
there.
Silent.
Yep, just stay there. Stay there. Yep. So what's happening right now, I'm actually seeing, so there's like this ball of light in your throat, right? And then that is connecting. I'm seeing all these threads of light coming out and they're connecting to every lifetime you've had in every dimension.
Oh, wow.
Where that pattern has been there.
Yeah.
Because in order to clear it in this physical, because this is one of the densest realities, right? This is in physicality.
Yeah.
We're clearing it through all the other ones as well. So I'm seeing those threads and there's like I don't know, like 100 of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty old.
Well, we all are.
We're all old. We're all
a lot of
infinite,
lives. Yeah.
That was cool. All right, so you just tell me when we're finished. So I'm just gonna sit here in receptive lotus mode until.
Yeah. We're coming out of it. We're coming out of it. Yeah. That's just. I mean, look, that's a very basic example of something that can be done.
It's pretty deep.
Yeah.
You got there. You got right to the source.
That's not even
Eesha, guys. She's good.
That's not even a full session.
I know, right?
That's just a quick 5 minutes.
Wow. And you know why I love it? It's because visual. I love visual. I mean, I think we're all visual people, but creatures. But what was interesting about that, actually? Do you mind if I just give you feedback?
Please do.
What was interesting about that is even though the first word I said was what was it? I'm safe, was my inner child, and then I didn't believe it. It's funny because I actually felt, if I'm observing, it was my physical self, the part that's experienced what I experienced in this lifetime. That's what didn't feel safe. But all of my other levels were fine. Well, not fine, but that's the wrong word. Needed to be healed, but still did believe that I was safe. So it's interesting. That was a very interesting, unique experience for me, where I was actually feeling like there was two of me. That's very different to anything I've done before, what you just did with me then. So that oh wow, I love learning new things like that. Because that
Are you a healer as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And but I work, because I'm a psychic medium, I work a lot in those realms of what you were saying about the remote viewing and channeling people. So it is very much, I think, based in physical, a lot of it, even though I'm going up. But what I like about that is that exactly what it is, the word, isn't it? Multidimensional frequency technique. And I felt that.
Now it makes sense to you, right?
Man,
because the words are like, it's multidimensional, it's the frequency, the 0 point, and the actual technique that I was doing to get you into that space.
Oh, I love it. And that 0 point, I mean, Abraham Hicks, she talks about, I think, that 0 point, and she talks about the vortex, getting into the vortex and all that stuff. But, I mean, I could go on about her forever, but this is not about her, this is about you. And so what about then, if we look at now, we feel into, so we've gone into all that, unless there's anything more you want to add with the multidimensional, is there anything else you want to add with that multidimensional?
I think we're good for now.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
So with this then, we talk about now intuition, and let's unpack that, because on social media, there's many different varieties and variations of
I just want to hit pause before we move on, because I need to make sure we've integrated you before we move on.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because we've just done a mini healing session.
No, let's just shift that. Okay, let's ground me.
Yeah. So how are you after the experience?
Well, okay. So we're just doing that. Okay, so I feel calm. I feel like I'm seeing a million colours right now, because I'm an auric, like a channeler, and I've just got heaps of colours going on right now in front of me. But I'm putting my feet on the ground now. Yeah. Because we have done quite a big release. So I just want to make sure that I'm okay.
You're okay.
I burped. Did you know burping's a release? No, I feel good. Yeah, I feel safe, which is fine. I feel safe with you, so it's all good. I'm good. Thank you for checking in. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Keep going. So intuition. All right. So when we talk about intuition, I think that a lot of people relate it to just psychics, but I want to open it up, because I don't think it's just in the realm of psychic.
No, absolutely not.
We have it, and I find my clients, they say to me, I don't really, like, they either say I don't trust, not all, but some say I don't trust my intuition, or I don't really have that intuition, and then I just stop them and I go, yes you do, and here's why you have intuition, and here's all these millions of examples. So let's talk about intuition from your perspective, because you've got a very unique perspective from your experience. So I'll throw that over to you about what do you think about intuition, what's your experiences, you go for your life with it.
Cool, thanks. I actually love teaching intuition. So I run a lot of like beginners workshops on how to develop your intuition. Yeah. And it's something that, one of the biggest questions I get when it comes to intuition is, how do I know that it's not just me making it up? right?
Yeah, that is a question a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably the biggest barrier between people just listening to their intuition and feeling like they're fearful and they can't do it, because like you said, I don't believe that people don't have an intuition. Everyone's got an intuition.
Of course they do.
So my perspective on intuition is that it's like this internal GPS, right? So when you're driving a car, you use a GPS, right? If you're anything like me, I'm hopeless with directions. I need my GPS.
Although you're really good at energy directions.
No, that's different. That's different. When I drive my car, I put my GPS on. So we have a GPS when we drive cars, right? It shows us the direction. It's literally like, it is our roadmap. It's telling us, if I want to go from A to B, this is how we're going to get there. Right? So just like you have a GPS in driving, you have a GPS in life. And your GPS in life is your intuition. Absolutely. It tells you how to get from A to B in the best way possible, the fastest route, the smoothest drive, the one with the least traffic, the least delays, you know? So same like Google Map tells you, oh, there's a roadblock over here, don't take that path. Your intuition's like, oh, that's not feeling great, don't go down that road.
That's a great analogy. I love that. You know, if the map is, the GPS, the formula for getting there is the intuition. All right, so that's your visual. I like that. So, okay, keep going.
Okay, so okay, so a lot of people, I guess what they're lacking is the ability to how to listen to their intuition, and it comes down to one thing and one thing only: is trust. Is trust, because your intuition has so many different ways that it can speak to you. When you're first learning, you know, when you're just starting out, it might be like an external, and it generally starts off as external ways of tapping into it. So you'll get like number sequences, you'll get feathers on the road, you'll get like, you'll be thinking of something and the song on the radio is like the exact same thought, you know. So it starts off with external reflections of intuition. As you start listening to those external reflections of your intuition, then you start to notice, hang on, actually this is coming from me. And the beauty in actually getting in touch with your intuition is you start to realize that actually you're the one creating your reality. So this goes a whole next level. Like step one is listening to yourself, and step two is realizing it's not just you listening to you, you're literally creating everything around you. Right? But the first step is to learn how to trust that and to drop into that space and how to actually feel that. The easiest way to do it is you start from, well, like with everything I do, from the inside out, and I start with the body.
I use those exact words. I was just thinking that in my head. Inside out. I remember it's
always on the inside out.
I would say inside out. What does that mean? Now I know what that means. Cool. Yeah. But what you're just a reflection on what you're saying there. The outside is a reflection of the in too. When you're saying about signs. Yeah.
It is. It is. But to tap into the intuition, we start from the inside out.
Of course.
So because like I said before, we're in the third dimension, right? And the third dimension is physicality. And we're moving from the third into the fifth dimension as part of ascension. So we follow that same process where we start with our intuitive abilities on the 3D, and we actually start by doing it in the body. So if you're happy for me to take you through this simple little process.
I feel like I'm getting all this free stuff right now. I love it. Okay,
so your body is your number one tool for gauging how to get yes or no. So we start with very simple yes/no questions before we start moving into. I know you're already intuitive, so just play with me here. But
I always think of it like, I never look at myself as an expert. I always look at myself as like, I'm just a soul that loves to learn.
Great.
Because I feel like expert is like, could be an ego. Because I'm trying to pick languages sometimes that's not of the ego, and so I'm like, no, I'm just a soul that's learning.
Yeah. But I'm going to treat you like someone who's never done this before. Who has no psychic abilities, who's never done anything. Right. So this is designed for the absolute beginner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so take a deep breath into your body and just find that still point of neutrality. Okay, and once we're completely still and we're completely calm, now I want you to bring your awareness to this general chest area and just notice what happens to your body, okay, in a moment. So I'm going to say yes. And as you say the word yes to your body, what sensations are you feeling in your chest and in your body area? Okay. So just say it out loud what you're feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, and how does the word yes feel in your body?
Odd response. My body had an odd response to that.
That's okay.
I wasn't expecting that. What's going on, body? I had like a critical feeling in my chest of the word yes, and that surprised me. I don't know why. would not be able to tell you. All right, but
Okay,
I'm sure I'll find
it's
out.
all right.
Yeah.
So we're going to do this a couple more times.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So again, just say the word yes to yourself.
Yes.
And what do you feel in your body?
This sounds so bad, what I'm going to say.
It's all right.
I feel like I did a forced enthusiasm.
Okay.
That's from me. That's nothing to do with anything else but my own.
Yep, cool. And we're just going to do it a third time. So
But I know
close
why
your
that's
eyes
come
again.
up. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Close your eyes again. And say yes to yourself.
Yes.
And how's your body responding to that?
This is so weird what's coming up. This is throwing me sideways.
It's fine.
Anger.
Okay, that's cool. So I've done it 3 times to get the calibration, and I can see there's actually some stuff coming up for clearing. Okay, now close your eyes, come back to center.
And by the way, I laugh as a coping mechanism and a deflection of humour. Just
Cool.
to add that in. That's why I'm laughing.
It's all good. Okay. And now say the word no to yourself and tell me how your body responds.
No. Felt more truthful. So weird. I don't know why this is coming up like this. Yeah, it felt truthful to say no.
Okay, that's cool. So we're going to do it again. So we do 3 times each. So close your eyes again, come back to center and say no.
No.
And how does that feel for you?
Oh shit! Hold on, it just came up.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, we're going to do it one more time. And again, say no to yourself and notice how your body responds.
No.
What's coming up for you?
So much power, like not power, but empowerment.
Okay.
And grace. That's the words I want to use.
Okay, I can see, and if at any time you want to stop, just
I'm
let
fine.
me know, because I know this is on camera.
No, I can handle it. No,
Alright,
I
cool.
don't care. I've cried on camera a million times. Don't worry.
Because we're actually doing some like actual real healing.
Yeah, this is real, by the way.
This
I'm
is like
not-
100%
I'm not acting
unscripted.
right now.
Yeah. So, okay. Okay, this is what normally happens. When I do this in a workshop, most people will be able to get a response for their body of what feels like a yes and what feels like a no.
Okay, yep.
You're a slightly different case, and this does happen from time to time, is that the words themselves are triggering something in you that we're going to clear. And once we've cleared that, you will be able to know what's a yes and what's a no for your body.
That's
So-
interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but because you've had issues and trauma around saying no and boundaries is what I'm picking up on.
Huge. You got it in the nutshell. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the actual exercise is a trigger. That's
but
not
okay.
always the case.
That's okay, but it's a good example of how powerful words are.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So in an ideal scenario, I'm just going to tell the audience, and then we're going to clear this. So in the ideal scenario, when somebody doesn't have trauma around the words yes and no, you actually just get a calibration of what feels like yes and what feels like no, and it becomes a physical feeling. And from that physical feeling, you can then ask your body a question. Say it could be something as simple as, do I want pizza for dinner tonight? And your body will respond with a physical yes or no.
With a physical yes.
So
or
you
no.
use your body as like almost like a pendulum, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first step to developing your intuition.
Yes.
And then from there, you can start asking more in-depth questions.
Yeah.
And I will say this, if anyone's interested, I do actually have this. It's an online course on my website where I actually take people through these exercises.
EeshaPatel.com.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if you head to my website, it's called The Intuitive You, and there's actually a process that I guide people through that get people into this intuition. Now, yours is a slightly different case because the words themselves are
different case.
are a trigger.
Yeah, that's okay.
So, and that's okay because sometimes it does, you're not the first person this has happened to, it does happen.
No, but it makes total sense why. And what I find amazing is that those simple words, so much felt sense, so much memory trigger, emotional, muscular memories coming up for me right now.
Yeah. So the best way to clear that right now is to use the violet flame. And I use this technique as a way of just completely clearing my energy field. Now, you start by visualizing the violet flame inside your heart and then just radiate it outwards.
Can you explain the colour to people if they don't know what that is? Yep.
Violet?
Yeah, sorry. Oh. Yeah, of course. Sorry. I always think of it as the violet flame, and then I always visualise the colour as purple, but violet is a colour.
It's purple, yeah.
It's purple.
So we're actually visualising a violet coloured flame. Yeah. That starts in your heart, radiates outwards, and then you see yourself completely surrounded in this violet flame, as if it's like you're sitting in the center of it, totally calm and just totally clean. So I'm going to get you to do this now because this stuff has come up for you. So breathe into your heart space, visualize the violet flame, and then just watch that radiate outwards through your body, and make sure that the flame touches all the physical cellular parts of your body as well.
I'm shaking. Yeah.
So for anyone watching at home, this is a beautiful technique that you can use for any sort of clearing. It can be for physical, it can be for emotional, it can be for just general aura cleansing throughout the day as well. So you just visualize violet flame. I usually just sit in it maybe 2 to 5 minutes. Doesn't have to be a massive practice. But today we're just clearing all that stuff that came up, because we want to make sure that when things come up, we do clear them immediately and they don't sit in your cellular level, turning into stagnant energy. So let's just keep flaming until those feelings are gone. So there is a connection here for you with what's coming up in terms of boundaries and the voice stuff, obviously.
And it's great that actually you've done this on me, because you've actually been able to show people the link between the multidimensional and the intuitive stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
Well done.
So can I just share what's coming up?
Go for it.
I'm just mindful it is a bit personal. That's all. So I'm just getting
everything around me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's all
cool,
good.
cool. I'm getting that it's relating to sexual stuff, and that it's so you've obviously
hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I've spoken about this on my page. So it's fine.
All right,
it's fine.
cool.
It's all good.
Cool.
It's not.
So just because I don't want to be the one to say, can you just tell people what it is?
So and I've spoken before on the page about this, is that at the moment I'm going through counselling for PTSD for a sexual assault.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I picked up on as well.
Yeah, and hugely, that's exactly what you said. And
I wasn't going to say it without your permission.
No, it's fine. It's all good. No, I'm an open book. I'm the first person to say if I'm not comfortable, but cool. I'm normally always comfortable, because I just think it's so much easier to just talk about and clear it. I think it's when it's in the denial stage where, and like what was so interesting about that process is what I learned about in myself in that reflection of the real-time stuff is coping mechanisms.
Yep.
And humour, like, you guys know me that I like to crack jokes all the time, but like I've also been very candid and open about why I do it. It's not just because to be entertaining, it's because it's a coping mechanism. And, I think it's important to be honest about that. Yeah. But yes and no, those words, and I'll just share those 3 no's, how they, I'll share, there's 3 yeses and 3 no's.
We did 3 yeses and 3 no's.
So the process for me was yes, that was the coping mechanism, defensive stuff coming up. And that was how I rationalised it in my mind for 12 years, because this happened 12 years ago. And then we went through that, and then the no stuff, that took me way back into that time in my early 20s, and then going through what I wish I said. Was it
in a relationship?
No.
Okay. So, but it was multiple times.
That what you're picking up on is that's other relationship stuff as well, but the singular event was not with a relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a combination of things going on.
But there's huge, and this is why
because that pattern I just feel like has gone through
everything.
All your other relationships.
Yep,
okay.
Exactly. This girl's good. That's why I brought her on, because absolutely. And when you said about the voice thing, what I was visualizing is actually, because I've come to know that with the work that I do as well, is that when people can voice it in the moment, but be taken back to that past when it happened, but your voice, like I was voicing that as if I was saying it to the person.
Yeah.
That was healing.
Yeah.
That was very healing in that moment. And it's incredible. This is why I love this stuff, because it's so immediate. You know, it's sort of, I mean, you know, and obviously I'm not bagging counselling, because I do think counselling is needed.
It has its place,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Has its place, and I need to go. but like, what I would say to people listening is that go with what feels right for you. You know, I don't know if you probably agree there, but that's what it is go with what feels right. And if you resonate with what Eesha, so we're going to probably wrap up soon, because I was noticing the time and everything and the battery life on my phone. But I feel, okay, so anything you want to say, feel, wrap up with, or just leave everybody with in their hearts?
I think if people can, you know, walk away with one lesson today, it's that the world really is just energy and frequency, and that this is what I utilize for how I do my healings. Because what I'm doing right now, what I've been doing this whole time, is I've just been reading your energy, I've been reading the energy of the room, I've been reading the energy of the audience, and we've just been going into that. Most people are so focused in their heads and their physicality that they don't realize that they actually can just utilize energy. You know, when you can learn to work with energy, you literally, you see yourself as a creator of your reality. And this is where, you know, you just coming back to this healing part of it, healing can happen instantaneously. You know, because I've just pinpointed this thing that has been carried on for so many years.
Carried on for so many years.
Exactly.
And that's huge. And I think, you know, what's so incredible was your accuracy in it. And, you know, even to the level of the tone in your voice actually was healing around it. So, because I do believe the voice carries a lot of messages that transcends what the actual words are.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you were doing in all of that. So, thank you.
You're so welcome.
You know, okay, so anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, it's just been a very interesting experience. I wasn't expecting where it was going to go, but always fascinating just to,
that's why I love this.
You know, show up, say yes, and see what happens and what magic is created. So thank you, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, and thanks guys for watching. I've seen lots of people jump on. It's been beautiful. I've seen I've been trying to read from a distance who. Okay, I can see who. Yes, hello Deb. Hello Christine. All right, so I just wanted to wrap up with something interesting. Now, I didn't tell you this beforehand. Don't worry, I'm not putting you on the spot or anything. But this is a little globe of the world. Now, when I do my Reiki healing, I pray for different areas of the world. And I thought you might like this. I mean, obviously, I'm sorry, I'm not giving it to you, it's mine. But, I just thought I'd bring it to the thing and just see if you wanted to work your magic on the world right now.
We can definitely do that.
Cool. So let's,
And if anyone's watching and wants to join, I'm just going to visualize beautiful white light going around the whole world. Feels lovely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's getting a lot of heat sending to Mexico for some reason, so it's just sending that. And that's the way you can do, guys, if you feel you want to contribute to the planet. Just get yourself a little globe. I got this from Loretta at Feng Shui Wisdom. So yeah, she's great with all that stuff. So anyway, www.eeshapatel.com.
Thank you.
You are Eesha's speaker as well, so if you'd like to book her, because she does fantastic talks and she does that a lot. And look, thank you. That's all I can say. Honestly, it was like transformative is what I can say. And really, I feel like I've just travelled around the intergalactic macrocosm with you today, and that was such a blessing. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
and,
beautiful.
Angel blessings, guys. Peace.
Thank you.
And, mwah.